Well, greetings and salutations, pipe pals and gals. I don't know if you heard that on the audio portion of the video, but sirens going by. Well, good evening. And how are y'all doing? Holy smoking pipe padre coming back at you with another scintillating video. Yeah, it's been a little over a month. And I am still smoking this beautiful Boswell's Danish freehand, I guess you could call it. I guess it is, yeah. And it kind of sits up a little bit, kind of. I just love the way it feels in my hand. It's a beautiful pipe. Gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful pipe. Love this thing. Acrylic stem, can't go wrong. And then I'm smoking some Scottish mixture right there, the Thomas Aquinas Scottish mixture. Right, lads and lassies. Okay, so it is June 11th, Feast of the Apostle St. Barnabas today. But it's almost not today. It's almost going to be tomorrow in another little more than 3 hours. So, and I am taking some time out to make this video. I'm using a new stand. I just can't stand it. I'm not going to stand for it. Nope. Actually, I will sit down for it. But normally, I have to, there we go. Little piece of tobacco there I got stuck in the back of my teeth. More tobacco. Okay. Or there could be little bugs. I don't know. But anyway, normally I have an old, what do they call those? It was a special, I guess they still make them, Gorilla Pod, or anyway, they're articulated legs, and you can wrap them around trees and wrap them around light posts and light fixtures or anything that's hanging or on the side of the wall, you know, and excuse me. And you can kind of put them in strategic places, creative places, you know, and, you know, probably get a shot that way, which is really great when you're kind of a budding, frustrated filmmaker like yours truly. But the one that I have, I have to put it on a little box. I have a little DJI drone box that I've kept for years, and usually it's the same box when I reorder several years later I order a new drone. It comes pretty much in the exact same box. Anyway, it's enough to where it puts I know there's too much information here already, little tripod or little stand, and gives me the right height, which I'm using right now. And so it's a little more of a involved process, because I got to go find the box, then I got to put the tripod on the box, and then it barely fits. It fits just perfectly, but if I go, I get too much one way or the other, it's in a precarious situation, it could fall off. So anyway, a dear friend gave me a little tripod in my little anniversary last week, 34 years of being a padre. And so I got a couple of really nice little thoughtful gifts, and this was one of them. And it's a special tripod. It's more like a tripod selfie stick. And the thing I like about it is also the other one, you have to kind of cradle it inside a little little cage or little holder. And this one here, because it's MagSafe, you just pop it right on, pop it right off. You don't have to like open up the little case or the little cage or the little bracket and then slide it down and set it, it just like that, it's just really great. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, so I'm going to have to add this back. But anyway, you can take it right off and then you put it right back on, and Bob's your uncle, Sally's your aunt. Love it. A little bit of a liquid libation here, non-alcoholic. It's called grapefruit blonde, and it's very refreshing. It's not sweet, but it is very refreshing. So anyway, that's what I'm doing right now. I realize that I haven't made a video probably a little bit over a month. Try to make one a month when I can. In my other channel, I make one once a week. Whether I like it or not, whether you like it or not, it's been something I've been doing for what, 15 years maybe? No, I take that back, almost 20 years. I think I started in 2008, so 18 years, yeah. So I think the heyday of YouTube was like 2006, when everybody was kind of starting to jump on board. And I didn't follow suit for about 2 years. At first, I thought YouTube was kind of a goofy thing, but it turned out, who knew that it surpasses. I mean, there are YouTubers that get more views than CNN news people. It's incredible. And people just making videos from their kitchen dining room table. Or in my case, not my kitchen dining room table, but my dining room table. Yeah, it's kind of nice. I really do enjoy my setup here. And actually I have a couple little other setups that sometimes I might film outside on a nice night. Tonight would probably be one of those. Summer has now sprung officially in the valley. We're up here in the mountains, so it's about 15 degrees cooler. And right now it's just 66 degrees as compared to 86 or maybe 88 degrees down in the valley right now. So I'm grateful for that. So I don't have an awful lot to say tonight. I've been really busy trying my darndest to finish up this little video documentary that I've been working on for the last 2 years. And I'm happy. I'm at a point now where I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not the train coming. Sometimes that happens, you see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's the train coming. Oh, that's not good. And I've had a couple of people watch the video, and they were politely enthusiastic. I don't think they were, I don't want somebody to just, say, oh, this is wonderful. This is the best thing, you need an Academy Award and all that kind of. No, I just want real, honest feedback. And I think for the most part, I've been getting fairly honest feedback. There's some people that might have some questions about, and again, a lot of times, it'd be like asking my opinion about, let's say, okay, let's say somebody who is a tax lawyer. And so I'm sitting in with them and a client, just observing this interaction between client and lawyer. And at the end they say, what did you think? And I'd probably say, well, I think you did a good job. But I have no point of reference. Because one, I don't know taxes that well, except that I have to pay them. Ooh, that reminds me. I got a tax payment coming up. Thank you for reminding me, folks. And, I'm not a lawyer, really, obviously. I don't even play one on YouTube, So my point of reference is extremely limited, and all I'd be able to go on is just, the interaction that I saw. And as long as the lawyer was respectful and polite and courteous and even kind-hearted at times and understanding, this client, because the client would be a little more like me, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, And I'd probably have to, and that's all I could do is judge it on that. So what I'm looking for really is somebody who probably has more of an inside knowledge in, making documentaries. I mean, a real person that makes documentaries. I mean, I watch a lot of documentaries and I get some good ideas. In fact, I think one of the things that for the last several months, maybe the last year, I kind of got stuck because I said, well, I want to tell the story. I made a rough cut, a very rough cut, and I kind of pieced this. I had it in segments, because there were different segments, there were different phases of the construction when we redid the floor, and I think I saw that is my way to tell the story, which is a good story. I mean, the amount of work that went into that project, 90% of the people will not have no idea. Now, the people that lived here locally and could come by and watch on a daily basis, even they just said, well, every now and then I popped in just to see what was going on. And unless you were really following it and you were involved like I was on not just a day-to-day basis, but sometimes an hourly basis, sometimes a minute-by-minute basis, trying to find, solutions to the problems that came up, or just find materials, or just find people that can do the work. It was just a nonstop, now again, there was a really big energy curve. I was very manic, I'll be honest. The people that were closest to me knew that I was just, once because I couldn't sleep. For one reason, I couldn't sleep. There were two reasons. One, I was just for the first several months, the whole process, I was just really, thinking this whole thing, like, what are we going to do next? And let's do this, and let's try this, and let's do, here's an idea here. And I'd run it by our project manager, who's a great guy. And a lot of times he and I would kind of go back and forth, we kind of, sort of like we enabled each other, he would come up with an idea, and then I would encourage him to think more about that. And then I'd add my 2 cents, and he'd say, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Let's try that. And it's like, it was, maybe we weren't a good combination because we just kind of kept feeding off each other all these ideas. Now, at the end of the day, I think the end result is still, to this very moment, a wonderful work. They did a great job. I still sometimes pinch myself because I kept thinking for several years that I was first here, I kind of could see the possibilities that could happen if we decided to do this project. But again, we needed a huge crew. We needed the finances. We needed the expertise. We needed the contractors. And I had none of that, really. And then this guy named Tori showed up on my doorstep. He had been kind of going through some personal problems, but he kind of goes to the other church, helps out over there too. So he's just a really helpful guy. But anyway, long story short, it all kind of came together. And when it was ready, and boy, it was like a Saturn V, rocket going straight up. It was a sight to behold. But the story, had a lot of components, and I've been trying to tell the story, and, people would give me some feedback as I'd share with them my progress, and a lot of times I would just create certain little templates or montages, thinking, well, this kind of would fit into a documentary that would tell the story, but it was just a small puzzle piece, but it was like, I'm going to work on this piece right now. And so that I would do that. And then I'd drop it into the timeline and say, oh, that works pretty good. I think I like that. And then I would sit there, and then other people would say, well, okay, this works, but this doesn't work. Or then they question, well, why did you choose, like, music is very important, obviously. Why did you choose that song as opposed to something else? So I kind of go back and go, well, yeah, I know why I picked that song, but if I have to explain it, and if people don't understand or they don't know the artist and the connection, then they don't make the connection, and then that segment doesn't have the impact that I wanted it to. So I had to kind of like say, as much as I like that song, I don't think it really, it helps to tell the story. It just is a nice song, and nobody knows the relevance and the relation that the song had to the video and the pictures. So I had a couple of those moments where I had to say, I need to scrap that and find something more meaningful that's going to really kind of say, yeah, that makes sense to me there. And so most of the musical selections that I have, I don't think anybody said, oh, I don't like that music, or that doesn't work. Why did you, everyone says, oh, that song is appropriate, and that song is really good for that segment there. And then, so anyway, so the music pieces seem to work. Most of the slides and the photos I have are good. Some of them are lower resolution, and I know maybe I might be able to find some way to increase the resolution a little bit. We'll see. Then I started stylizing it, with different things like transitions and some, special effects. When I say special, what's effects? That might be enhancing to sometimes the picture by itself is kind of meh, but when you add some maybe extra coloring, or you add kind of a little bit of a special effect to it, it kind of makes it pop a little bit more. It kind of, kind of like seams, it kind of stitches things together better. Some better transitions help. Again, some transitions you got to be careful, because if all you're doing is just, throwing a bunch of transitions into your timeline, then that just becomes, oh, this guy got a new plugin. Here I am. Look at my new plugin. It's like garlic and spices. You have to just, it has to be seasoned just right. Sometimes a special effect in the right place is really nice. It really accents the video, and and maybe it'll make it a little more impactful and more meaningful. But if you're just throwing in a bunch of random transitions and effects, then that's all people are going to go, oh, that's an interesting effect. Oh, that's an interesting effect. It has to be almost seamless. It almost has to be like they don't even see it almost, And so I found a really cool plug-in, a couple of them that I really liked. And again, I've been watching some really good documentaries. One of them was about Jacqueline Kennedy of all things, and it was really well done. And I thought, they've got some really good stylistic points that I think would help me to enhance my video, because again, some of the basic photos were, again, they just were very lackluster. And then I saw this other documentary guy who took, basic photos, and by themselves, they would have been kind of boring. It was like, that's all you could find, but then he married them up with some other interesting imagery that was not, meant to like, wow, look at that great effect. It was like more of a stylized kind of a thing where you kind of go, okay, I like that. That works. That's a style that I'd probably use, and I did. I started using some of those stylistic points there too. So anyway, I'm hoping maybe in the next week or two, it'll be completely done. And then that project will be, in the can, as they used to say, and it'll be history, quite literally, and it'll hopefully be something that, and then there was some talk when I first showed it to a couple of people. They said, hey, would it be possible to take the slideshow or the documentary and then take portions of that and turn it into a book? And I thought, well, that's a possibility too. So we'll have to wait and see. But I'm hoping, figure out how to get it on our webpage so that people can view the video. It's like about 31 minutes and a few seconds right now. It could be cut down maybe a minute or two, or it could even be maybe expanded a little bit more. I'm not looking to expand it anymore. But it might be where I can maybe cut a little bit, but it'll still hopefully flow and tell the story. So that's what I've been doing. And so as a result of really focusing on more creative and personal things, that means I haven't had a whole lot of time to get immersed into all the politics that's going on. I guess there was some young black guy who's killed somebody, and the people are upset. This is the best I can tell you. I forgot that. I think his name is it Clemo or Clement? I can't remember the guy's name. To save my life, and anyway, I guess he was in Texas, and apparently he thought he was being bullied by a white guy, and apparently they had words, and the black guy pulled out a knife and stabbed the white guy and killed him. That's the best I can tell you. Now again, if that's not accurate, if that's not the accurate story, forgive me, but that's basically all I've heard. And so apparently it's become more of a racial thing, kind of like George Floyd or maybe Rodney King or something like that. I hope not, but it's sad. And then there's other things that are going on. Let's see. Well, I guess the Iran thing is still going on. As of tonight, there were rumors once again that maybe a deal was in place or going to be getting close to a deal, and they were going to maybe open the Strait of Hormuz again. And I don't know. I just, like I said, I have been so focused on being kind of just in my own little world. When I kind of get in that creative zone, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of like drugs. It's, and again, it's not, you're not ingesting an illegal substance, or you're not getting inebriated, you're not driving drunk and all those negative things, but this has happened before, and it's happened many times, and it's just being in a creative cloud, and you literally shut yourself off to pretty much everything in your life. I mean, almost with the exception of breathing and eating, you're just so focused. And, when those creative gears are turning, you're just kind of like really you're in a different space. Literally, you are in an altered space, an altered reality. And and to be honest, if I could stay there 8 hours a day, I probably would. Again, it's kind of like drugs. You're just you're in your own little world, and you're creating these ideas. It's wonderful on one level. It's just wow, and everything else goes to the periphery. It doesn't matter. It's really. And I'm like, wow, this is really I can lose 4 or 5 hours like that, just like that. It's like, where did the time go? And I think I derive a lot of energy from doing that. I think, instead of just sitting and, mindlessly letting my, brain be a sponge, I'm actually, using it more like a muscle to think and be creative. And that's what I really enjoy. But again, because, being a full-time padre, I have to sometimes, I can't just completely just close out the whole world for 5 or 6 hours at a stretch, because I got people that they need to talk to me. They gotta tell me about this problem, or they gotta, say, hey, are we going to do this next week? And I got to be available to a certain point where I can respond to the real world. But I can see somebody who is a true artist, whether they're, we're talking, classical mediums like painting and photography, real photography, not AI stuff, music, literature, writing a book, writing a novel. When you are engaging, your creative side, you can very easily go into a different world. And those of us who have kind of discovered that little, secret rabbit hole in our own lives, we're kind of like, hey, I kind of like that. For a lot of reasons. One, not just because you get a chance to be creative and think, these in a very creative way, but, in a lot of ways you shut out. You shut out all this, I want to say it's nonsense, but you shut out a lot of the noise that sometimes we think is important. It's the old FOMO thing, fear of missing out. Oh gosh, I'm missing out. And sometimes it's, with the exception of maybe the Titanic going down, it's okay to miss out. It's like, hey, okay, if there's again, there maybe somebody else is in the world is having a calamity, and it would maybe be on one level important to acknowledge and be aware of that, but at the same time, it's not happening in my life. It's not happening in my world. And again, I'm not trying to say I don't care about the suffering and the catastrophes of other people. That's not what I'm saying at all. But at the same time, there's precious little that I can do that I have an effect, or what I think or say or whatever I feel. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't. I'm one of millions, one of billions and billions, of other people that might be able to do something truly substantial and help somebody, whereas I might just have my usual opinion of, and I pontificate, and that means nothing. So anyway, I was kind of reluctant to get on here and even make a video tonight because I don't have any real burning desires except my briar here. I'll get a little sip of this here. And, a lot of times when I get on here, I have something I want to, I feel like I really have something, in my craw that I want to share and get it out there and say, oh, that's how I feel, or it's what I think, And a few of you are kind enough to, watch me and listen to what I have to say and maybe make some comments, which is great. But tonight just wasn't one of those nights where I really, when I usually make a video, I'm ready. I'm on fire, But, not tonight, just other than I kind of just realized that when I'm doing something like this video documentary that I'm making, it's my life just it just gets really focused. And in some ways, I really like that. I like that a lot. Because I'm not so scatterbrained. I'm not so, it's like, all these extra things bouncing around, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to focus on next. It's like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. There I am. I'm in the zone. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting phenomenon when it happens. I had an interesting experience last week, and I've gone through this procedure 4 or 5 times now, and for the most part, I've always kind of felt it was always kind of an intriguing thing to be put under, and so I had one of those procedures that all's well that ends well, the end, my big fat end, and in years past, in a lot of these places now, I think they kind of really pride themselves on making it almost an enjoyable experience. I mean, the prep, getting ready, fleshing everything out, it's not that fun. But if you're accustomed to fasting, 24, 48 hours, that's not a big deal. But the actual procedure, they kind of very lighthearted, almost, very, almost like little vacation. They make it such an enjoyable experience to the most part. I mean, as much as you can make someone get an enjoyable experience, but they seem to strive to do that in the places that I've been the last 3 or 4 times, and 9 times out of 10, they're just, it's like, okay, and nothing to be afraid of. It's, they're all nice, and, and it's kind of fun because, I say, well, I'm going to show that anesthesiologist, I'm going to count backwards to 100, and I'm going to get down to 99. I'm going to get down to 5 before I go out. I'm going to show them. Yeah. And so as the anesthesiologist was sitting there right next to me, they rolled me over, and there she is, with her, it's a pretty good sized syringe of propofol. I'm kind of going, oh, she goes, have a nice sleep. And I'm like going, yeah, right, doc, I'll show you. And I think I got to 7. And then next minute I'm waking up, the next moment I'm waking up, and I'm kind of like, where am I at? Okay, yeah, I think I know where I'm at. And anyway, so, but this last time it just had a little, and it's funny because I was watching this Dr. Anthony Cave about 3 years ago when my back went out in 2023. And it was really bad. It was one of those bad experiences where when my lower back goes out, it goes back and it goes, oh. And it was like, 4 or 5 months of, chronic pain. But eventually it got better and over the time. But then I realized there were things that I could do to, speed up the healing and not re-injure myself on a daily basis. And so once I kind of realized, if I do these certain things, I can avoid, for the most part, my back going out again. So that's what I do now. I'm kind of very religious about certain things that I do to take care of myself, and so far it's working after 3 years. So that's good. But the doctor came in, the anesthesiologist, and I'd heard about people, delirium emergence, and sometimes even in the middle of the procedure, a person can come, they like, whoa, what's going on here? Not that you really have a lot of recall to that, and you probably, but she was kind of funny because she goes, just in the event that it happens. I said, well, wait a minute, doc, how often does that happen? I said, I heard about this phenomenon, but I said, and she goes, well, it happens more than it's like it happens. And I go, okay. So I kind of wonder if maybe that happened to me because I didn't have any pain when I woke up. I didn't have any, but I felt a little disturbance, which I've never felt before. And I'm just kind of wondering if maybe I did actually wake up in the middle of that whole procedure. I can't tell you if I did or not, but there was just something coming out of it that this last time I just felt a little disturbed, a little like a little unsettled, I guess. I was like, okay, something didn't quite go right here. Now, as far as the, no pun intended, the end result was everything was fine. In fact, they said, well, we won't see you another 10 years, if I live that long. But anyway, the bottom line was, no pun intended, bottom line, get that? Okay, bye. Hey, I know a couple of you caught that one too. Okay. But anyway, I just this was the first time where I felt like, wonder if something kind of, maybe, and they did say that I have a problem snoring. They said, you might have sleep apnea. You might want to get that checked out. Then I went, oh, okay. That's the first time anyone ever said anything. Anyway, so maybe they had to slap me and like, stop it, you're snoring. Okay. I don't know. Maybe they said some unsightly things about my big fat derriere. Or they said, oh, this guy's a loser. Look at this guy. He's a real loser. Maybe they were saying naughty things about me behind when I was under, I was like, this guy's a loser, which is all true. But at least they could have said it to my face instead of waiting until they passed me out, knocked me out. Anyway, I don't know, but I just felt a little off when I woke up. But anyway, I'm okay now. So anyway, the only thing that I'm probably going to just make a passing comment, maybe talk a little bit about real quick. It seems to be the talk of the town. As far as of today, the 11th of June, it's been in the news for the last couple of months, I guess. The UFO files being released, kind of like the Epstein files being released. Okay, I believe it when I see it. And apparently now Steven Spielberg is talking about timing. Okay, this doesn't pass the smellometer. I'm thinking that there's something going on, and it's not real aliens from planet Xenon. I just think that, I don't know. It just seems like we kind of go, especially in the summertime. I don't know what it is, but the alien crop circles and alien this and alien, it just kind of, it's like a passing thing. It's cyclic, it's time for this to be back in the news again. Okay. And apparently, now they're no longer UFOs. There's some new other designation. I still think UFOs is the best thing because they are unidentified flying objects. Something's there, but again, it could be lots of things. A lot of it could just be, playing light shadows and light refractions from different things. Personally, there was a time, when I thought about Star Wars and Star Trek and, warp speed and all that stuff. And then when you kind of realize that from a scientific perspective, it's not really all that possible. And again, if we had one real space encounter, that would be probably something, But apparently we've got hundreds, if not tens of thousands of UFOs out there. They're, we're like a little outpost on the way to somewhere else. And they all stop here to either go to the bathroom or get a burger or something or say hi, Really? Okay. And a lot of times you hear about, and this guy's going to get on and tell you that, it's all real, folks. It's all real. Because I heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody else who heard it from a guy that worked there. Okay. Yeah. So, but I think it's, space-time continuum that really seems to mitigate against, creatures like ourselves or biological forms traveling, for light years to get here. I just don't think it's possible. I mean, even if you could send a space probe, kind of like the Voyager thing, there's not going to be people there. I mean, living creatures have a limited lifespan. That's the way of life. Everything has a limited time span, whether it's a plant, a tree, a cat, a person. Heck, even mountains crumble. Of course, they're not living things, but still, all biological, organic life forms, they have a shelf life. And it's just not, at this state, and everyone's, well, that's just, you're just limited by human anatomy, and you're just limited by the biology of Earth. Well, I think biology is biology. It may look a little, if there was another planet that had some similar kind of a life experience that we experience, again, would they be able to, I think it's highly improbable for lots of reasons. The distances, the limitations of a biological being, time and space, we are, just like, and I'm going to say it, some people are going to get pissed, but men can't be women and women can't be men. I don't care how much creativity you put into that endeavor, it's just never going to be a reality. And there are a lot of people now that I think they look at, well, if we can actually, quote unquote, change a biological sex, then the next big biological hurdle or the next big biological enemy is death itself. So if we can, quote unquote, change our biology to anything that we want, then eventually doesn't that mean we're going to be able to be victorious over physical death? The ultimate biology, right? And I think that's really at the underpinnings of this whole, we got to change our sex and all this, or our gender. Yeah, I just think it's fantasy. It's all fantasy, So if you want to pretend to be something, that's you do you. You go ahead and pretend as much as you want, but, again, don't try and force other people to say, well, you have to believe this. And apparently, I guess this new movie that's coming out called, Day of Discovery, or the Great Announcement, or something like that, or the Great Announcement, or the Great Discovery, or the Great, whatever it is. It's a Steven Spielberg and his space movies, starting with E.T. and, starting with Close Encounters, and then E.T., and, whatever. It's just always a positive thing. It's always, I'll be right here, ding, ding, ding. Cute movies, don't get me wrong. I can always tell you, though, you can usually tell who's in the White House, what party's in the White House, because depending upon the alien stories. So if it's If it's a Democrat, it's always going to be warm and touchy feelings, touchy-feely movies like E.T. or, Close Encounters. But if it's a conservative Republican, it's always like, Independence Day. Those rotten aliens, we're going to kill them all. Let the cosmos sort them out. That kind of thing. Or what's another one that's really a dark sci-fi movie, and the aliens are going to destroy us. Anyway, so I really think that, and now the big thing is, of course, they're going to say, well, they're trying to say, well, technically, and they actually have a Catholic nun, quote unquote, supposedly putting words into the mouth of this religious person that, oh no, the church was wrong. We were just trying to hide things from you. I mean, and all this is like Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code rehashed all over again. And apparently, though, as far as, talking about these kind of phenomenon, there's been a couple of Catholic exorcists, several, in fact, who have said basically the quote-unquote alien phenomenon is really just demons being in disguise. Now, one guy apparently, as of today or yesterday, got himself canned because some high-ranking cardinal didn't like what he had to say. And they fired him, and pack your bags, you're out of here, And again, there are people in the church that want to see the church change its teaching. They would love to see the traditional church just go right down the tubes, if they could get rid of it, and that's what they're trying to do in many ways. But I think it's just repackage Dan Brown instead of, Vatican shadows and the skulking around, hiding things from people. Now they're saying, well, no, yeah, actual aliens are real, and the church has lied to you, and and there's more than one God, and all this stuff. It's just, I got to tell you, it's just another day, another dollar. It's just another time for people to get excited about something, and maybe that's part of the problem. We lead pretty boring lives, and and so we kind of allow YouTube and AI to motivate us to feel something, right? Okay, if I feel something, then I've done something, and now I could go on to the next problem, Whereas, if you just live your life, you probably don't get sucked into a lot of the peripheral rabbit holes that really, at the end of the day, they don't produce anything. Maybe you get a little angry or hot under the collar, or maybe you say a spicy comment, and I'll show them, And after a while, hey, if you want to speculate about life on other planets, hey, knock yourself out. But until, I guess, they actually show up one way or another, whether they're coming as ETs or they're coming as, the alien from, yeah, good point. I just made my point there. So when the Alien came out, the Alien one, Ronald Reagan was in office, I believe. So when that movie came out. So there you go. Just making my point. Aliens are sinister, and they're bloodthirsty, and they're out to destroy humanity, So, and if they existed, maybe they would, like Orson Welles, War of the Worlds. Cold and unsympathetic. They've been watching us. Yeah. Oh yeah, another one was War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. That was actually a pretty good remake of the War of the Worlds. I thought that was pretty good. I liked Tom Cruise in that movie. I like Tom Cruise in most movies, but that was a pretty good movie. It was dark as it got into it. Got kind of dark there for a while, and people being sucked up and digested. And, yeah, that's a pleasant thought. And then sprayed out as a fertilizer for the aliens to grow more human biological units so they can feast on more people. Yeah, that's a real charming thought. But anyway, actually, I think Barack Obama was in when that movie was remade. So I kind of just defeated my own hypothesis there. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Maybe was it? No, maybe it was George Bush, come to think of it. Maybe that's right. Someone check me on that. Maybe it was George Bush that was actually president at that time. So that would make, then holds my hypothesis holds true then. Anyway. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to go watch that movie. You know, there's some movies that have come out and I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in the message. I'm not interested in the acting or the lack of acting with some of these people. I think, have I watched a movie lately that was actually any good? I'm going to sneeze here in a minute. Excuse me. Bless me. Bless you. Thought I saw a movie not too long ago that was, yeah. The Nuremberg one with Russell Crowe. That was actually, it had a few Hollywood kind of, goofy Hollywood stuff there. Like, why are they doing that? The character in real life wouldn't even do that. But apparently they had to, I don't know what it is, but they have to Hollywood some of these things in a historical drama. But for the most part, that was probably a really good movie, which then led me to remember that there was another great classic movie about the Nuremberg trials that goes back, I think, 1962 or 64 with Maximilian Schell, who, by the way, also, that wasn't really an alien movie, or was it? No, it was an asteroid movie, Deep Impact. But Maximilian Schell played the father/husband in that movie, which is really good. But this very young Maximilian Schell, just a fantastic actor. I mean, that Judgment at Nuremberg, if you've never seen that movie, that is a real classic. That's an awesome, awesome movie. Very thought-provoking, very powerful message, brilliantly acted, great, great movie. Anyway, I digress, but I just, saw the Nuremberg one with Russell Crowe, which was, I'd say I give it 8 out of 10. That was a good movie. That's worth your watch. Oh, and the other one that I saw, which is very unsettling, called Zone of Interest, which is also about the Holocaust at Auschwitz, but told in a completely unique and very bone-chilling way. And if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, go see it. It is subtitled, but the cinematography is absolutely breathtaking for more than one reason, not just because because it's so haunting. It's just, oh man, that's a powerful movie. Definitely not a date night movie. Let me just put it that way. If you're the person that you're going to date is into historical biographies, maybe they would love it. But yeah, it's definitely one you need to see with a sober mind. You have to be kind of like, because when you go in there, you're going to come out and you're going to go, what did I just watch? Yeah. So, Zone of Interest, Judgment at Nuremberg, and even the recent Nuremberg movie with Russell Crowe was quite good. So, but there were no aliens in there. Just got to tell you right up front. I know that might come as a shock to some of you, but no, there were no aliens. Okay, no aliens. Not that I know of. So. I just think what time is it now? Well, a little bit after 9:30, which isn't too bad. So, I think I've kind of come to the end of this video. I think I'll pack it in right now and load it up for your consumption. And so I hope everyone's doing well out there. I hope you're enjoying the beginnings of summer. It's not too hot and oppressive where you live. One of the things that I learned a long, long time ago in the military is just certain things that you just, how do you say it? You can kind of bitch about it, but you don't because you can't change it, and it's boring. Oh, the weather is so hot or it's so cold, I mean, maybe there might be a small little window where you could kind of say little something about it, but basically you don't harp on it. You don't dwell on it, but a lot of people do. And God bless them. But like I said, there's not a whole lot you can do to change it. Hopefully you have some good fans and good air conditioning. And maybe, the Delta, we get a thing called the Delta breeze, which kind of sometimes cools off the state, but can also be a double-edged sword, because if we have a wildfire, then those breezes, then they inflame and fan the wildfires. So that's not a good thing. So anyway, excuse me. So hopefully life will be good where you live, and until then, thanks for watching. Light up your world, light up your pipe. We will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.